Bobby Lashley's journey in TNA wrestling was unlike any other. Originally brought in as the backup muscle for MVP, Lashley would go on to dominate the TNA world title scene. But it all started by chance, a twist of fate that would take a man in the shadows and put him in the spotlight. In today's video, we're going to take a look at how Bobby Lashley accidentally became the face of TNA. After nearly 4 years away from TNA and wrestling television in general, Lashley randomly returned at TNA Lockdown 2014. EC3 had just issued an open challenge, calling out anyone from the TNA roster to prove themselves against him. What he didn't expect was the return of Bobby Lashley. Can't say I did either. I was 13 years old and I hadn't seen Lashley since I was a little kid watching WWE. I mean, he still looked the same, and hey, I loved Lashley as a kid, so this was pretty cool. The crowd felt the same way, erupting as Lashley made his way to the ring. EC3 tried to backtrack, claiming Lashley wasn't on the roster, which he kinda had a point there. Lashley was back though and made it clear he wasn't here to play EC3's games, and he sent a message to the entire TNA roster. That is, if he was committed to TNA. Lashley's return was impressive, but for a few months he was nowhere to be seen. Honestly, I did have my doubts if I'd see him again. Then, in May, he came to the aid of TNA champion Eric Young, only to turn on him with a vicious spear. Lashley had joined forces with MVP and Kenny King, forming a faction that was ready to run roughshod over TNA. Honestly, no one was excited for this. It just felt like another stale, heel stable clogging up the main event scene. MVP had a plan to take the TNA world title from Eric Young, and Lashley was meant to be his insurance policy, his heavy, the man who would ensure MVP's rise to the top. But fate had other ideas. Just days before Slammiversary, MVP was sidelined with an injury, throwing TNA's plans into pure chaos. The match was changed to a three-way cage match, with Lashley now stepping into the main event, alongside EY and Austin Aries. Lashley fought hard, but ultimately didn't come away with the title. It was a great match, and the seeds were planted. Soon he would get another chance. In fact, the next Impact, which was a live edition, Lashley got another shot at Eric Young, and this time, he capitalized. With a spear that left no doubt in a shocking turn of events, Lashley pinned Eric Young to win his first TNA World Heavyweight Championship. The man who was here to just support MVP was now the face of TNA. A guy that really hadn't been given a shot since what, 2008? This was so random and caught some attention. The thing about Lashley is he didn't need shortcuts. Unlike MVP, who would have taken every opportunity to cheat and given us a similar title reign to the previous heel run that Magnus went on, Lashley earned his victories. At the same time, he was making a name for himself in the world of MMA. He went undefeated in Bellator and was drawing comparisons to WWE's Brock Lesnar. The only difference, Lashley was more active, and fans were starting to take notice. With every title defense, Lashley's reputation was growing. His next major feud was with Bobby Roode, and it would be one for the books, culminating in a trilogy that helped TNA create strong hype for their debut on Destination America. Lashley lost the title briefly, only to reclaim it with MVP's help. But the dynamic had shifted. Lashley was no longer MVP's henchman, he was his own man. His alliance with MVP and Kenny King was falling apart as MVP added Samoa Joe and Low Ki to his group, now known as the Beatdown Clan. His face turn was solidified as he distanced himself from MVP's Beatdown Clan at Lockdown 2015. TNA fans had never seen a champion quite like him, at least not in a long time. But the next chapter of his journey was just the beginning. When Lashley lost the title to Kurt Angle in 2015, it set off a rivalry that would elevate both of them. Lashley respected Angle, but he wasn't done proving himself. Their feud saw some of the best matches of Lashley's TNA career, who was now fighting to stay on top against the legendary veteran. Lashley proceeded to have a quiet year in 2015, which can be chalked up to two things. One, the terrible booking that plagued the entire year for the company, and two, Lashley as a babyface, something that just never went too well in TNA. He really shined as a heel, and in 2016, Lashley's persona shifted once more. After defeating Kurt Angle in Angle's farewell match, Lashley turned heel once more, this time in a brutal way. He assaulted Angle even after the bell, and it established Lashley as Ruthless. This guy stopped giving a hoot, and it was for the better. Far removed from his days with MVP, Lashley didn't need anyone else. He was walking Armageddon, the unstoppable juggernaut of force. Gotta love all these trademark nicknames Josh Matthews gave him. TNA thought about giving him another manager. They teased a partnership with Raquel, formerly seen in Tough Enough as Gabby. It went nowhere though, and I'm kinda glad it did. 2016, Lashley was just doing the unthinkable. At Slammiversary, he submitted Drew Galloway in a tap-out or knockout match to become TNA World Heavyweight Champion for the third time. He wasn't done. Lashley would go on to win the X Division and the King of the Mountain Championships, holding every single men's title there was in TNA. Reminiscent of Kurt Angle. Lashley's reign would eventually be challenged by Eddie Edwards, who shocked the world by taking the title from him. But Lashley would come back stronger than ever, winning it in a 30-minute Iron Man match at Genesis. Okay, now TNA had really never seen a champion like Lashley. He was dominant, he was unstoppable, and he was taking on everyone. In 2017, TNA had to get creative. Lashley was paired against fellow MMA star Josh Barnett. Both men were heavyweights in MMA and wrestling, creating a really unique match, which gave former UFC heavyweight champion Josh Barnett a TNA title shot. Lashley retained, further cementing his legacy, despite TNA taping both possible finishes, to keep the fans guessing. That trend would continue as TNA transitioned under new management. Lashley would embark in a feud with Anthem's newest signing, Alberto El Patron, or Alberto Del Rio. He lost the title at Slammiversary, marking the end of a historic run. Following this, Lashley left the main event scene and in storyline, teased that MMA was pulling him away. This caused him to form an alliance with American Top Team and feud with Moose before wrapping up his TNA career by putting over Brian Cage. Lashley left TNA as a proven main eventer, a man who had gone from backup plan to dominant face of the company. He returned to WWE in 2018, and in 2020, the pieces of his TNA journey came full circle as he reunited with MVP. Once again, Lashley and MVP were unstoppable, now in the Hurt business, proving the impact of their time in TNA. Bobby Lashley's TNA journey was one of evolution and unexpected greatness. What began as an injury-ridden backup plan became the entire legacy of walking Armageddon. Bobby Lashley ended up not just being MVP's heavy or WWE's wasted potential, he was now a champion who defined an era.